dreamed that I went back in time.
Nothing could beat the joy of waking up on a Saturday morning as a kid in the 80s. It wasn't just the no school factor adding to our happiness, but also the fact that there were cartoons waiting for us. Today, we're going to revisit that nostalgia by listing out all the movies that were turned into Saturday morning cartoons. So, welcome back to Marvelous Videos, and be sure to tap on that bell icon so you don't miss the fantastic videos we're putting up on this channel every day. RoboCop! Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop was released in 1987 and became an instant hit. This story, set in a dystopian future Detroit, follows Alex Murphy, a cop investigating the notorious criminal Clarence Boddicker. Boddicker manages to shoot and kill Murphy, and his body is acquired by Omni Consumer Products, or OCP. Detroit had recently given OCP complete control of the city's police department due to the intolerable lawlessness. To assist the department, OCP transforms Murphy into RoboCop, an armed cyborg with no memories of his past life. However, as time passes, Murphy begins to recall his lost human identity and sets out to dismantle the corruption within OCP, along with Boddicker and his gang. In a world full of mechanical and emotionless robots, the humane RoboCop soon became a fan favorite. In 1988, Marvel Productions, in collaboration with Orion Pictures Corporation, adapted RoboCop into a 12-episode animated series. Several changes were made to make the show more appropriate for children, one major change being the use of laser weapons instead of real bullets. In this alternate reality, Boddicker doesn't die and returns to fight the valiant cyborg. The Real Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. The 1984 supernatural comedy Ghostbusters became an instant classic and spawned an entire franchise thanks to its devoted fan base. Directed by Ivan Reitman, the film follows three parapsychologists from Columbia University, Egon Spengler, Ray Stantz, and Peter Venkman, who start a ghost hunting service in New York City. Armed with proton packs, the Ghostbusters track ectoplasmic residue to capture ghosts. As their popularity grows, they recruit Winston Zeddemore as the fourth member. Soon, supernatural activity intensifies in the city due to a shape-shifting god of destruction, Gozer the Gozerian. In a climactic battle, the team successfully banishes the entity from their dimension. Given its immense popularity, it's no surprise that Ghostbusters was adapted into a cartoon series. In 1986, The Real Ghostbusters debuted on television as a sequel to the film. The show followed the beloved Ghostbusters, their secretary Janine Melnitz, and their mischievous green ghost mascot Slimer as they traveled the world hunting spirits, ghosts, and other paranormal entities. Running for 7 seasons with a total of 140 episodes, the series aired on ABC from 1986 to 1991. It even led to a spin-off called Slimer, which focused on the antics of the slimy, gluttonous ghost. The Karate Kid. Gen Z might recognize Jaden Smith as the Karate Kid, but for many, the original and true Karate Kid will always be Ralph Macchio. In 1984, America was swept up in a martial arts craze thanks to The Karate Kid, an action-packed movie about an Italian-American teenager named Daniel LaRusso. After moving from New Jersey to Los Angeles, Daniel struggles to fit in and faces relentless bullying from a gang of teenagers trained at the Cobra Kai dojo. His troubles worsen when he befriends Allie Mills, his crush and classmate, who happens to be the ex-girlfriend of Johnny Lawrence, the leader of the bullies. One day, Daniel is rescued from an attack by Mr. Miyagi, a quiet handyman and a war veteran. Determined to stand up for himself, Daniel convinces Miyagi to teach him karate. Under Miyagi's guidance, Daniel learns discipline and skill, ultimately defeating Johnny in a high-stakes karate tournament. In 1989, NBC added The Karate Kid to its Saturday morning cartoon lineup. In this animated series, Daniel embarks on a quest to retrieve a stolen magical shrine from Okinawa. Accompanied by Taki Tamurai, a girl from Okinawa, Daniel faces numerous adversaries who seek to exploit the shrine's power for their own selfish gain. The show ran for just 13 episodes before concluding in the same year. Rambo. The Force of Freedom. John Rambo, a Vietnam War veteran, arrives in the small town of Hope, Washington to visit an old war friend, only to discover that his friend has died from exposure to Agent Orange. Unfortunately, a misunderstanding with Sheriff Will Teasel leads to Rambo's arrest. In jail, he's brutally mistreated by Chief Deputy Art Galt, triggering traumatic flashbacks of his time in the war. Overwhelmed, Rambo escapes, prompting a full-scale manhunt. As the situation escalates, Rambo's former commander, Colonel Sam Troutman, is called in to mediate. The pursuit culminates in a tense standoff between Rambo and Teasel. Just as Rambo is about to kill him, Troutman intervenes, convincing Rambo to surrender. The gripping story was originally written by David Morrell, as First Blood was adapted into a 1982 film directed by Ted Kotcheff, with Sylvester Stallone in the lead role. The film was a box office success and spawned 4 sequels. You might wonder how a film filled with violence and mature themes could be adapted into a children's show, but that's exactly what Michael Caine did with Rambo: The Force of Freedom. Premiering in 1986, the animated series reimagined Rambo as the leader of a special forces unit called the Force of Freedom, working under Colonel Troutman. The team traveled across the globe, battling a terrorist organization known as Specialist Administrators of Vengeance, Anarchy, and Global Extortion, or SAVAGE for short. SAVAGE was led by the villainous General Warhawk, a disgraced European Army captain deported for selling state secrets. The show ran for 65 episodes and even inspired a popular toy line. However, Sylvester Stallone reportedly disliked the series and was embarrassed that a complex character like Rambo had been transformed into a children's cartoon. Teen Wolf. Before Tyler Posey gained fame as Teen Wolf, the title belonged to Michael J. Fox, who played the titular role in the 1985 movie. Teen Wolf, as the name suggests, follows Scott Howard, a 17-year-old high school basketball player who discovers that he's a werewolf due to a family curse. At first, Scott uses his newfound abilities to improve his basketball skills and impress girls. However, he soon begins to lose control and ultimately decides not to abuse his powers. The very next year, an animated series debuted following the Teen Wolf and his werewolf family while exploring themes of coming of age and fitting in. The series introduced several changes to the original characters. For instance, in the movie, Scott was an only child and lived alone with his father, whereas in the animated version he has a sister and grandparents. The show is set in the fictional town of Wolverton, which attracts tourists due to reported werewolf sightings. It also brought back beloved characters from the movie, including his best friend Styles, his childhood friend Boof, his crush Pamela, and Pamela's boyfriend Mick, a more skilled basketball player than Scott. In the UK, the show aired as The Cartoon Adventures of Teen Wolf. A star level sword. Conan the Adventurer. Conan the Barbarian, the 1982 epic film, tells the story of Conan, a warrior seeking to avenge his parents. As a child, Conan's Sumerian village was raided by a cult led by Thulsa Doom, who slaughtered the adults and enslaved the children. Forced into servitude, Conan eventually escapes and wanders the land. He falls in love with a brigand named Valeria and befriends Subotai, a skilled archer and master thief. The trio is offered a reward by King Osric to rescue his daughter, Princess Yasmina, who has joined Doom's cult. Conan ultimately kills Thulsa Doom, who had brainwashed his followers using hypnotic powers. He then burns down Doom's Temple of Set as his followers disperse, reuniting King Osric with his daughter. In 1992, Conan the Barbarian was adapted into an animated series titled Conan the Adventurer, developed by Christy Marks. The story begins with a meteor shower in Samaria. Conan's father forges a metal from the ore obtained from the meteors and names it Star Metal. The evil serpent man and wizard Wrath Amon realizes its power and seeks to use it to free his deity Set from the abyss. When Conan's father refuses to hand over any star metal, Wrath Amon curses his family. The series follows Conan as he battles the evil wizard and searches for a way to break the curse. Beetlejuice. Adam and Barbara Maitland are newly deceased ghosts who have no idea how to rid their beloved house of its new, very much alive residents, the Dietzes. When they learn that they must remain in the house for 125 years before moving on, they seek the help of a freelance bioexorcist named Beetlejuice. However, Beetlejuice, a crude and sleazy ghost, only adds to their troubles. The Maitlands eventually manage to get rid of him and decide to coexist peacefully with the Dietzes especially since they've grown fond of their teenage daughter, Lydia. This hilarious 1988 Tim Burton film inspired a musical, video games, and even a sequel. Burton himself led the adaptation of the movie into an animated series in 1989. Each episode followed the mischievous, otherworldly con man and his mortal friend Lydia as they embarked on adventures, often parodying famous books and movies. Police Academy. Few movies can make you laugh until you cry, but a definite contender for that list is Police Academy, the 1984 comedy directed by Hugh Wilson. When a city opens its police academy to all applicants, chaos is inevitable. The police chief, eager to eliminate those unfit for the role, implements a grueling training routine. Despite their incompetence, a handful of recruits persist and, despite their bumbling ways, manage to actually catch a criminal. With 6 sequels, there's no denying that Police Academy was a box office success. The Police Academy animated series is set between the 4th and 5th movies. The main characters include Kerry Mulhoney and his sidekick Larval Jones, a martial arts expert and skilled beatboxer. Their team consists of the accident-prone Carl Sweetshuck, the hillbilly Zed McGlunk, the powerhouse Moses Hightower, the sweet-natured Laverne Hooks, and the weapons-obsessed Eugene Tackleberry. Each episode follows this hilarious group as they take down new criminals in their own unconventional ways.
This'll teach you to mess with a hideously deformed creature.
Toxic Crusaders. Superheroes were redefined in the 1984 black comedy The Toxic Avenger. In Tromaville, New Jersey, Melvin Ferd Junko III is a thin janitor who's often bullied. He falls into a drum filled with toxic waste that deforms him but gives him superhuman strength and size. He takes revenge against his bullies and fights the criminals terrorizing innocent people. Mayor Belgoody isn't fond of this as he leads a crime ring and is afraid of being exposed. When Melvin kills an old woman who led a human trafficking ring, the mayor seizes the opportunity to vilify him, claiming he killed an innocent woman. But the truth ultimately prevails, and Melvin kills the corrupt mayor. The 1991 series Toxic Crusaders was very loosely based on The Toxic Avenger. The series was controversial for its depiction of sexual content and violence. The protagonist, named Toxie, gains his powers in the same way as Melvin. Toxie's mop, which fell into the toxic waste along with him, becomes a sentient being and helps him battle villains. Toxie is aided by other superheroes in fighting supervillains such as Tsar Zosta and Dr. Kilimov, whose sole goal is to pollute Earth's atmosphere. Back to the Future. Life is very hard for Marty McFly. His mother is depressed, his father hates his job, and his siblings are failures. He visits Emmett Brown, his scientist friend, whom he fondly calls Doc. Doc has transformed a DeLorean into a time machine. Marty gets in as Doc sets a past date, but terrorists attack, and Marty time travels alone. In the past, Marty helps his parents' relationship and facilitates the happiness and confidence they lack in the future. When he returns, he sees his parents leading a successful life, just as Doc rolls up for another time-traveling adventure. After the success of Back to the Future, everyone wanted to go where there was no need for roads. Created by Bob Gale, the animated series is set in an alternate reality after the events of Back to the Future Part 3. Although Marty McFly still makes major appearances, the spotlight is on Doc and his family, which consists of his wife Clara, their 2 sons Jules and Vern, and their dog Einstein. The DeLorean has also received several new features such as voice activation and can now be folded into a suitcase, making it easier to travel without drawing unwanted attention. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. Sci-fi fans of cartoons get a special treat in this video, as we have another excellent sci-fi film that was adapted into an animated series. The 1989 Keanu Reeves-led Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure begins in the utopian future of the year 2688, which has greatly benefited from the musical and philosophical contributions of William Bill S. Preston and Ted Theodore Logan. Rufus, a citizen of this utopia, is tasked with helping young Bill and Ted pass their history class. If they fail, Ted's father will send him to military school, which would alter the course of history. Rufus travels back in time in a time machine that looks like a phone booth. He teaches them how to use the time machine, and Bill and Ted abduct historical figures such as Napoleon and Sigmund Freud for their class presentation. The historical figures initially wander off, explore, and get themselves into trouble. After Bill and Ted break them out of jail, they successfully conduct their presentation and pass their history class. The very next year, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, an animated spin-off of the movie, began airing on CBS. Many actors from the movie, including Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, and George Carlin, reprised their roles by voicing their characters in Season 1. However, in Season 2, as the show switched networks to Fox Kids, an entirely new cast was introduced. The show followed the cool dudes' time-traveling adventures across different parts of the world, meeting important historical figures. Highlander, the animated series. A wonderful blend of fantasy and action, Highlander was directed by Russell Mulcahy and has a cult fan following. Connor MacLeod, a warrior born in the Scottish Highlands in 1536, battles the rival Fraser clan. The Frasers are aided by a warrior named the Kurgan, who fatally wounds Connor. Miraculously, Connor heals, but his clan suspects him of witchcraft and exiles him. Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, a Spanish swordsman, finds Connor and tells him that, like the Kurgan and himself, Connor was born immortal and is destined to fight other immortals. The only way to kill an immortal is by beheading them. The surviving immortals will be drawn to a faraway land called the Gathering, where the final battle will determine who wins the prize, the power of all immortals. By 1985, the time of the Gathering is near, and the Kurgan is the only other immortal left besides Connor. As the Kurgan schemes to behead him, Connor falls in love with a woman named Brenda. The Kurgan kidnaps her to lure Connor into battle. Connor overpowers the Kurgan, beheads him, and receives the prize, which grants him the ability to read minds and makes him mortal. With his newfound powers, Connor hopes to bring peace to Earth. Highlander, the animated series, follows a similar storyline but is set in the future, where immortals have taken a vow not to fight and call themselves Jeditors. However, an evil dictator named Cortan, still greedy for the power of the prize, begins to behead them. Connor breaks the vow to fight him, but this becomes his downfall, as any Jeditor who breaks the vow is doomed to die. Quentin MacLeod, a descendant of Connor, is mentored by Don Vicente Marino Ramirez, who teaches him about the immortals. Since Quentin wasn't alive during the time of the vow, he's free to challenge Cortan. Instead of beheading immortals, Quentin gains their knowledge through a technique called sharing, where they hold the same sword simultaneously. The show explores Quentin's quest against Cortan, with many episodes featuring Jeditors who find loopholes in the vow in order to challenge him in battle.
Hey! Look down here, guys!
Star Wars Ewoks. Created by George Lucas, Star Wars is an epic saga set in a galaxy far, far away. The franchise consists of 9 movies: the original trilogy, episodes 4, 5, 6, the prequel trilogy, episodes 1, 2, 3, and the sequel trilogy, episodes 7, 8, and 9, which was produced after George Lucas sold the franchise to Disney. The plot of Star Wars is vast, featuring an incredibly diverse array of characters. Set in a universe where aliens and humans coexist with intelligent androids and cyborgs, the movie depicts the conflict between the Rebel Alliance and the evil Galactic Empire, ultimately showcasing the inevitable triumph of good over evil. Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, released in 1983 and introduced audiences to the adorable teddy bear-like creatures named Ewoks, who inhabit the forest moon of Endor. These intelligent creatures quickly gained a fan base after their debut appearance. Following this, 2 made-for-TV films centered around the Ewoks were released, and in 1985, an animated series followed. The show focuses on Wicket W. Warwick, a young Ewok from Bright Tree Village, and his adventures with his friends. Wicket is also tasked with protecting his clan from their rivals, the Dulocs, and Morgag the Tolga Witch, who harbors a grudge against their shaman. The 26-episode series aired across the United States, Canada, and Taiwan.
What are those? I'm not hanging around to find out.
Star Wars Droids. Star Wars Droids is often considered a sister series to Star Wars Ewoks, as both were broadcast during the Ewoks and Droids Adventure Hour. Set between Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and Episode 4, A New Hope, the show follows the adventures of the humanoid robot C-3PO and the dome-headed mechanical biped R2-D2. As they serve new masters, they find themselves battling various criminals and soldiers from the Galactic Empire. Inspired by the series, a toy line was released and many episodes were adapted into storybooks. Marvelous Verdict. We hope this journey has made you remember the 80s like it was yesterday and you were up on a Saturday morning sugar binge about to have pancakes in front of your favorite cartoons. Which cartoon series was your favorite in the 80s? Don't forget to let us know in the comments, and until next time, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.